Hi everyone, happy Friday. So for our Friday paint along, today we are going to paint this cute little cat. The fun thing about this project is that we are going to choose colors from last week's color mixing sheet. If you didn't do this project last week with us, you can still totally follow along today, and I will also link it for you. So our focus today is color, not extreme detail. This week I have been playing with the colors on this color sheet and making all sorts of simple cat paintings primarily focused on color. I'll show you a few of those. I did a couple in my sketchbook. Here's a little cat laying in a tree. We have another one similar to what we are painting today. And then here is little cat sleeping on some stairs. And the thing these all have in common is that I pulled all of the colors from here. So even though the colors are totally different, they all still kind of coordinate together because they all came from the same 3 original colors. So this is a fun one. It's short and you can just play and put beautiful colors together to create this cute little cat. I am just tracing a quick 5x7 square onto a piece of acrylic paper. I'm going to just do a super quick sketch here. Just 2 lines, one horizontal, one vertical. Then I'm going to create my little cat shape peeking out from behind the corner. Now, if you can't draw, that's okay. Just kind of make a fun cat shape. So the cat head is basically a circle, and then the cat body will have a little neck and then sort of come out in a curve. And then we are going to have a little tail along the floor. I'm going to need one ear. The other ear would be hidden behind there. A little cat nose. Super simple sketch. I like to use a gum eraser and just dab it on to kind of lighten my pencil lines. If you don't have a gum eraser and you don't want to do this, that is no problem at all. Before we paint, let's mix up some colors. We'll get our color mixing guide back out from last week. Okay, so we're using the same primary type colors that we used on this mixing paper. It's a turquoise deep, a cadmium yellow medium, and a magenta. We need white too. So we're going to start by mixing this lime chartreuse green. To do that, it's going to be predominantly yellow with a touch of that turquoise, like a little dab, and some white. That might be a little bit too yellow. I'd rather it start out too yellow than too blue. I'm going to mix in some slow dry medium. If you don't have this, don't worry about it. You can use any medium, or you can also thin out your paints with water. I'm just going to get that in there so that my paint doesn't dry while I'm mixing my other paints. So we are also going to use sort of like a coral pink, and I'm going to use that for the background just to do like a underpaint layer. So for that, again, we are going to use a lot of yellow, a dab of magenta, and a chunk of white. Oh, I definitely want it more pink than that. So I'm going to dab a bit more magenta in there. And you can keep adding magenta until you like the shade of pink. Now I'm going to lighten it up just a bit with white. This is where we tie our colors together. I am going to tone it down by adding just a little bit of this lime green to it. It removes a tiny bit of the brightness and just kind of links those 2 colors together. We are then going to do like a rich purple. One of the benefits to using magenta instead of true red in this color palette is that you can get more brilliant purples, especially with the magenta and turquoise mixed together. Your purple just won't be this like brilliant and jewel toned. If you're using a traditional red, it's a little more grayed down. Now I am going to tone it down and link it to the other colors by just adding the tiniest touch of yellow. Let's do one more mix here. So I'm going for something around this color. It's actually just sort of a dark grayish, maybe leaning towards blue. So for that, we are going to use a hefty amount of blue, some magenta, and the yellow is what will sort of neutralize those two colors. I'm a little bit green here. I need to add more magenta in. That's the fun thing with these acrylics is you can just keep adding till you like the color. Before we paint, I like a nice crisp edge. So I am gonna just tape off my rectangle. I do like to stick it to my drop cloth first to remove a little bit of the tack so that it doesn't pull up the paper. We are gonna start with a warm, thin layer of our coral pink color. And I'm going to put this over. This actually might even be a little bit thick. It's hard to see our drawing underneath. I'm just going to use water here and thin it out right there on the page. But I'm using this as just a layer of underpaint so that we can start with warmth, and we will probably get to see a little bit of this color kind of peeking through as we add other colors on top. It's a little thick there. I normally don't put it on quite so thick, but it is what it is. So I have my layer of warm underpaint. I'm just going to let that dry for a couple minutes. Acrylic paint does dry super fast, so we will be on to our next layer very quickly. So we are moving color by color in this project. We're not going to mix these colors together very much. We are just going to place them down layer by layer and see sort of the interaction of the colors next to each other. My underpaint layer seems quite dry, so I'm just going to do a fairly thin layer of this really beautiful bright green. You can see it still shows a lot of that coral layer underneath it. We are going to build up our layers so that we reach the thickness we like, but we don't get there too quick on this painting. Also going to do this color for this rectangle on the bottom. And this might seem weird, but I am going to put a little bit of this on our cat. When we're putting our dark color on the cat, there is a little bit of this green that might show through. We're going to do a nice layer of purple in the background. It's okay if you don't get like right up to the cat and a little bit of that warmth shows through. We want that. That looks really nice. So I kind of like lines that aren't perfectly straight. And I also really like when my brush strokes show through. This project is so fun because it just feels like you are coloring in layers of paint. I'm going to do a little layer of our darker neutral color for our cat. Just kind of mark in where we are going to put our cat shape. And if you notice, I am just letting a little bit of that edge color show. Not all the way, like we don't want to look like there's an outline around the cat. So these are the 4 colors I picked for my color palette. You don't have to. You can pick any 3 colors that you like. My cat layer is a little bit thicker, but I kind of like that. Just a little bit of variation. So I'm adding a little bit of white to my chartreuse. And this time around, I'm going to use a thicker version of it. The fun thing is you can just play with it. See what you like, see what you don't like, and paint over it if you want it to be different. I am going to lighten up this purple with some white. I'm going to neutralize this purple a little bit with some lime green. in some spots we will get right up next to our edges, and then in other spots we will just sort of let that darker purple show through. Now on my cat, I might take my darker neutral and just lighten it up a tad. And I might just add a couple little highlight spots. So I'm just going to put in like a little hint of a nose. And then you can decide if you want cat's eyes open, cat eye closed. But just make a little line if you want a little closed eye cat. All right, my paints are dry, and I am just going to make one more change as I look at this. I don't really love the coral down here. I think we're just going to let that color be in the background, and I'm going to make this a slightly darker version of my lime. And the great thing is you can still see some of that pink underneath. If you're like me and you enjoy super straight and crisp edges, then this part will be the most satisfying for you. Peeling our tape. You might peel your tape and then you want to just fix up one thing or two. For me, I kind of want a little bit of a lighter purple in the back just to contrast with the cat a bit more. So I am just gonna, even though I already peeled my tape, I just kind of want to lighten up this back just a tiny bit. Acrylic paint does tend to darken just a bit as it dries. So sometimes you might paint something, you think you love it how it is, and then it dries and you're like, oh, I'd like that to be a little bit different. I love that. I think it gives some nice contrast from our cat. One more thing. I'm just going to use white for this, but our cat needs whiskers, right? All cats need little whiskers. Here is our Friday project finished. I hope that you had fun painting that and that you got to explore some colors that you normally wouldn't use. I love these colors together and I'd love to see what you made too.